Well, the Eagles lost another pass rusher, except this time it wasn't due to injury as Zadarius Smith decided to call it quits and retire.
Up in RUNNOFT.
Yeah, Philadelphia is in a huge bind. But what does that say about the state of the locker room? In this video, I'll break down the shocking news about Smith, share a couple trade targets that are starting to heat up, and look at why the time is now for Howie Roseman to make a trade. Better yet, based on reports, the stars are aligning for that move, so let's talk about it. But first, let's run it.
I would think that there will be trades that are made this week.
What's up, guys? So the Eagles' latest update has gotten weird. I mean, you're well aware by now that edge rusher Za'Darius Smith officially announced his retirement after 11 years in the NFL. But the strange part is that beat writers had shared they'd spoken with a 33-year-old last week and he was in positive spirits. Therefore, once they got the news and the update, this one came out of left field. In fact, shout out to Johnny Mack, but his understanding is that the Eagles were also not aware since they weren't let known until Monday morning. Meaning for a bottom 5 Philly pass rush, they just lost their best pass rusher and it's headed in the wrong direction.
How did this happen?
Okay, technically, Big Z may not be their best pass rusher, but he was leading in terms of the sacks with 1.5, and then the second guy behind that was Patrick Johnson. Yeah, other than that, it's hard to believe, I know, but no one else from the edge has a registered sack for Philly. So it goes without saying, but this was a move the Eagles couldn't really afford right now. Of course, if you believe Diana Rossini, then she's reported that Z's announcement had nothing to do with the Eagles and only to do with personal reasons.
You actually believe that?
Not really, no. Like, you want me to believe that a guy who'd publicly let it be known that he wanted to get a ring, he was ring chasing, signed with a team, played for 5 games, and then all of a sudden just kind of decided like, nah, you know what, it's not worth it. Forgive me if I'm not buying that. Heck, his first media availability at the NovaCare complex, he was asked if he considered retirement during free agency and said not at all since he had still had a lot of football left. Which is why I say the more likely scenario, as much as I hate to admit it, and what others have also put out there as rumor, is the entire team quit on Thursday, so Big Z decided to peace out. As rumblings of locker room issues and Nick Sirianni's message of together isn't quite hitting home for everyone.
Right there up on the wall. Got that, Monix? Nope.
Look, I want to believe that this does not have anything to do with the culture and is not anything for internal issues because, beat writers are continuing to say it was only for personal reasons. However, common sense just doesn't quite add up to what the body language is shown in the building. I don't know, hopefully I'm wrong. The silver lining, or at least I mentioned this on the live stream, and I hope that this is the case, is maybe Zadarius Smith was signed before he had the $9 million in incentives. He looked at it, knows that a trade is coming or got rumor of a trade and said, you know what, I'm out because I'm not going to get those incentives. Still kind of crazy. I know it's selfish reason. That's fine if he did, if he gives up on that because, yeah, he's passing up on $9 million. Maybe he saw that he wasn't going to get the writing on the wall. It's probably not that, though. I'm leaning towards the locker room issue. I don't want it to be, but it seems more likely that that's the case. Either way, both technically could be right, but Howie Roseman's got to make a move. I'm curious where you'd have him go. I mean, think about it for a second. Take some time. Do you go with an edge rusher? I asked this on the live stream too, but do you go with an edge rusher more or do you go with a cornerback? Let me know who you'd go with in the comments and why, because I'm going to select one lucky subscriber in the comments section to win any NFL jersey of your choice. Just drop a like, leave a comment. By the way, for those on the side of adding an edge, there's an opportunity that started to pick up some momentum in bringing back Brandon Graham, which I realized that Fangio tried to convince BG to stick around at the end of the season last year, and even on an interview recently, he admitted that he missed it. Yet honestly, as big of a fan as I am of BG and as good as he is for the locker room, it's probably best that he just stays out on top with the last Super Bowl win. Granted, if the Eagles want to get back there, then Howie is going to have to make a move, or maybe multiple ones, to get back to the winning ways. And it'd be really nice to see that this week because SeatGeek, the sponsor of today's video, wants to give you 2 Eagles tickets to any game of your choice. That's right. All you need to do is drop a like on this video, make sure you're subscribed because SeatGeek wants to give away 2 Eagles tickets to 1 lucky subscriber of the channel after every Eagles win this season. Also, while you're doing that, SeatGeek wants to make sure everyone wins. So not only are they contributing to that, but they're giving all Philly Special Show subscribers 10% off your next set of tickets when you use my code SPECIAL10. And with the NFL officially back, the MLB playoffs in full swing, and the NBA right around the corner, now is the perfect opportunity to score on your seats. Go ahead, take out your phone, open up the app, and then add code SPECIAL10 to your account. Honestly, their app makes it super easy. It's one of the easiest to sort by event, and they put the tickets all in one place with the best deals coming up first. Plus, each ticket, as you see, is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, with it being super easy to find thanks to the green dots. Just saying, there's a reason why SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app and now season-long sponsor of the channel. As always, big kudos to SeatGeek for this insane season-long giveaway. And remember, if you want to support the channel while getting a discount on your next set of tickets, then use code SPECIAL10. Also, no worries if you don't have the app yet, there's a link down in the description to help get you started. It was pretty obvious that the Eagles were going to make a move for an edge rusher before the Za'Darius news, so all it does now is make it even more of a priority. And according to NFL insiders Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport, they would be surprised if the Birds don't make a big splash soon. Because for those counting over the past 6 years, in the month of October leading up to the trade deadline, the NFL has had 88 trades, which averages out to be about 15 per year. And some of the top guys on the speculated trading block are Cincinnati's Trey Hendrickson, Miami's Bradley Chubb, and Seattle cornerback Tariq Woolen. Don't worry, I'll get to cornerback, but for now the question is, which edge player makes the most sense? In my opinion, out of those options, I might say Bradley Chubb. Or you could also go with pass rusher Jalen Phillips, honestly whatever you want from the Dolphins at this point. Because after a wild collapse to lose to the Chargers and already knowing Mike McDaniel is close to the end of his rope, Tua might have put the nail in the coffin.
Well, I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
I know this doesn't directly help the situation currently in Philly, but at the same time, a little perspective, it helps you realize things could be so much worse given the Dolphins situation. Either the fire sale is happening or it's incredibly close, which is why Zach Berman doubled down on his keep an eye on Miami the next few days. Especially when it comes to Bradley Chubb. After all, the two-time Pro Bowler has had a pretty solid season despite the awfulness around him in Miami. I'll save you the time in case you haven't been watching. The 29-year-old has racked up 15 tackles, 6 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery in 6 games. Not to mention, Chubb's a dude that Vic Fangio drafted, and you know how much affinity Fangio has for his guys. Just saying, that familiarity would almost certainly expedite the ramp-up time that you typically have for edge rushers, because Fangio's talked about it in the past. It doesn't necessarily make some sense in season unless you have a guy that can get there from day one and start making an impact. Again, Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips, one of the two seems extremely likely. Also, if you're wondering the asking price, the estimated value would be something like a 3rd-round pick or potentially even a 4th, which I would sign up for in a second, but also when you take into account the bevy of draft picks the Eagles have next season, that's the last of their concerns. Seriously, dig into Chubb's contract details, and he's not nearly as expensive as you might expect since there's very little guarantees in his future. Anyway, you tell me, would you rather trade for one of the Dolphins options, or would you rather trade for Jermaine Johnson from the Jets? For the record, the reason I bring him up is because the Jets reporter Connor Hughes shared that Johnson's name has come up several times from several different teams in need of edge help in trade discussions. And come on, that's got to be Philly for one of those, albeit New York has said it would take, quote, a lot for them to consider trading him away.
Name your price.
In all honesty, the more tape that you watch, I know he's coming off of an injury, but Johnson might be the best option for the Eagles. For one, because he's younger, 26 years old, and might result in some short-term and long-term payoff. Plus, he's still a former first-round draft pick who hasn't gotten to show all of his full potential due to early injuries. Oh, also another point here, I think the ties of having Joe Douglas in the building for Philly, seeing that he was the GM in New York when he drafted Johnson, probably helps to get additional info on him. So yeah, like say a 3rd-round pick and possibly throw in a player to get it done, yeah, that is certainly one that would be worth it. Of course, the other idea you have, and that continually gets brought up, is Trey Hendrickson. Now, I know, if you're like me, I'm a little bit tired of the constant, continual Trey Hendrickson trade talks. However, shout out to Eagles Eric, who pointed out that his base salary is only $16 million, so if you traded for him, then you'd really only have to pay him for the games he's on the Eagles, which does make him cheaper than you expected, but it does depend also on his availability. By the way, Hendrickson did suffer a back injury versus the Packers, but an MRI showed he was good and only day-to-day now for Thursday's game. At the same time, I don't blame you if you're skeptical. Just keep an eye on it. If all of a sudden he randomly pops up as an inactive, then, maybe there's something in the works. Although let's not forget that Howie reportedly made a strong offer for Micah Parsons once he was available right before the season, so it's not totally dead in the water. And there were rumored reports earlier about swinging for Myles Garrett or another blockbuster name. Like, just think about it for a second. Where there's smoke with these things, there's typically fire. Do I think that it's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson? No, but I would also not say that it's impossible. Personally, I go back and forth on a lot of these guys because whether it's injuries or scheme or just weaknesses in general, nobody's perfect. Heck, then you add in the unknown of adding a guy during the season and you understand why Fangio has gone on record multiple times to voice his feelings of not necessarily being in favor of a mid-season acquisition. Again, that may be true, but whether you want it or not, Beggars cannot be choosers, and at this point, the Eagles need some serious external help. But just for the heck of it, if you did try to go and force something to work internally, then maybe you go with Jihaad Campbell at edge and move Nakobe back to the inside to start at off-ball linebacker. By the way, that's something Sirianni didn't rule out as far as change to be made the next couple weeks, but they're not really certain there. Either way, the real consensus will be to see what Fangio has to say on the subject because in theory it might work, yet Jihaad hasn't exactly shown dominance when he's moved down to the edge at times this season either. Like I say, I feel like there's not even a question at this point. You have to make a move for a guy externally. It's gotten to that point of a dire situation, but let me know in the comments, who should Howie go after, or should it be a cornerback? Remember, Nolan Smith will be back after the bye and is definitely going to add a significant boost to the pass rush and the run defense. Plus, Quinyon Mitchell is now dealing with a hamstring injury, and who knows how long he's going to be out with that. Just saying, I talked about Denzel Ward in a trade with Cleveland in my last video, but he makes a whole lot of sense. However, Anthony DeBona not only mentioned his name, but also Seattle's Tariq Woolen as a target Howie should call about. You know, given the fact that Woolen is in the final year of his rookie contract and hasn't exactly performed well in Mike McDonald's defense. Now, you're right, though. The fear is that struggle would just continue, and he'd keep that up even if he was traded to Philly. But come on, he's got to be better than Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo, so at 6'4", 210 pounds, and possibly a reduced price for the former Pro Bowler, maybe you look at adding him after a traded edge. Again, a lot of speculation, but make sure to subscribe, turn the notifications on, because if we get any move, I'll let you know. It feels like it's the trade deadline week. We're 3 weeks away, but the Eagles, it sounds like, are going to make a move sooner rather than later.
The deadline is Tuesday, November 4th, 3 weeks from tomorrow. So, again, I don't know of any trade right now that's close. We'll have to check in, but I would think that there will be trades that are made this week because there were last week. You've got the Chargers looking for a running back, the Steelers looking for a receiver, the Eagles always looking for help. The Browns alternately are buyers and sellers. They're still trying to rebuild their roster, but I think they have some offensive linemen that might draw interest elsewhere. I think a team that everybody's watching is the Dolphins. They've got Bradley Chubb. They've got Jalen Phillips, and we'll see how that goes.
You know, after watching this past week in the NFL, I'm convinced that it's anyone's year. Literally, it's truly about whoever wants it more and brings it any given day. Of course, I understand looking at the standings and seeing the Bucs win again, along with the Rams beating the Ravens, and thinking, those wins might mean more for the Eagles' playoff seeding than we think, except we kind of got bigger issues to figure out first.
Playoffs? You kidding me?
I won't lie, it was somewhat frustrating to see Baker Mayfield carve up the 49ers defense without a lot of weapons on Sunday. Like, you realize he's down a starting offensive lineman, his starting running back, 2 to 3 starting wide receivers, and dealing with a new offensive coordinator. And yet somehow that offense is ranked number 6 in the NFL this season. I mean, the most impressive part is that he's had 4 different offensive coordinators over the past 4 seasons, but somehow they're getting the job done. Meanwhile, the Eagles have an OC who's been mostly overthinking and getting in his own way up to this point.
No. He fakes to the right. He doesn't fake. He thinks about faking. He pretends to fake. I don't know where I am.
By the way, just for the record, that hype on Baker was not a knock on Hurts. I mean, one of them has a Super Bowl and one of them does not. It's just that it's frustrating when you see other teams like the Bucs, or even the Lions for that matter, seem to not miss much of a beat in the offensive production category when they have turnover at the OC spot. Disclaimer here, I'm specifically referencing teams who have head coaches that do not call plays. Anyway, I was watching the Lions and Chiefs game, and early on it just looked like everything was so much easier for Detroit. Now, yes, I realize they lost and they only ended up putting up 17 points, so at the end of the day, winning is the only thing that matters. However, seeing a middle-of-the-field throw to Jamison Williams did make me ask, why doesn't Philly do that?
I mean, it's a cop-out answer, but I think it is the right answer because we've seen it this way over the last few years. This is the Eagles' offense under Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, right? Like all of these things that we taught, all of these through lines. So like the lack of now. Can I tell you, like, oh yeah, this is 80% Jalen Hurts and 15% Nick Sirianni and 5% Kevin Patullo? Like, no, I can't tell you how that pie chart looks. But all I can say is when you look at all these trends, it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. It doesn't matter who the play caller is. This is the way. Jalen Hurts is he's very rarely under center. They do very little play action. They do very little motion. They rarely attack the middle of the field. It's 2x2 sets. So it's, 2 receivers to one side, 2 receivers to the other. So they very rarely trend away from that. This is the way that they want to play. Now, is it the way that they feel like they have to play? Is it the way that, hey, Jalen says like, no, I want to play this way. Don't make me do other stuff because this is the way I want to do it. I can't tell you the reasons for it, but it's very clear that it doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. This is the structure.
The past 4 years, 2 seasons with 2 quality OCs, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 2 seasons with 2 new OCs, and we're seeing what we got. The offenses have looked stale, so much so that this is the first time in 27 years and only the second time in 50 years that the Eagles have been outscored by 11 or more points in the second half of 3 consecutive games. FYI, the last time it happened was in 1998 when they went 3-13. And if you were wondering for the entire NFL in general for a team to finish with a winning record and pull that off, it was the 2017 Dallas Cowboys, who, ended up with a season record of 9-7 that year. Not great, but I do want to make this clear, I'm not giving up on them. Although I don't blame you if you're doubting the changes they're saying they will be incorporating.
Being more efficient on first and second down. So, because right now we're not near our standard on third down. Well, why is that? Well, 3rd and 7+, 8+, they're going to be harder to convert than 3rd and shorters. So, a lot of that is the efficiency. We looked at that. That's in the run game and in the pass game, and coming up with solutions there. Again, you never, not in this sport, do you ever want to get into a situation where it's a blame. So it's always about finding solutions. We feel like we did some of that. Now we got to go put it to work.
In case you missed it, Sirianni was asked about if he would strip Kevin Patullo of play calling duties, and he gave a pretty straightforward answer.
Does finding solutions during this mini bye, did that result in the decision to change offensive play calling in any way?
No.
KP's got one more week, it sounds like, but that's kind of for the rest of the team as a whole. I know KP's on the hot seat or the hottest seat at this point, but in all phases, we're going to see changes. Even if they're small ones, we're going to see changes. Again, special teams, the Eagles have the 2nd worst starting field position in the entire NFL, which is hugely different from being a top 6 team last season. Anyway, I'll keep you guys updated on any changes or also any injury updates and news there because we got some significant ones to keep an eye on for impacts versus Minnesota. As the Vikings announced they opened linebacker Blake Cashman's practice window, meanwhile, head coach Kevin O'Connell said the Vikings will also have quarterback J.J. McCarthy, center Michael Juergens, left guard Donovan Jackson, and right tackle Brian O'Neill back on the practice field. For the record, Philly did not practice, so we don't have updates yet, but will soon. Make sure to like and subscribe, as I've said. Drop a comment. We'll keep you updated, and we'll see you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.